10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the freaking frogs gay. Do you understand that? Turn the freaking frogs gay. Serious crap.
Hola, ¿cómo estás, motherfuckers? What's up? Oh, my picture's especially shitty today. I gotta figure out what's going on with my camera. I really do. Either that or I just need to put up like one of those, what do you call them? I don't know what you call them. One of those, like, AI avatars. I guess that's probably what it is, an AI avatar. They like you just put up, and it like listens to your sound and moves when you talk. That way you guys get a clearer picture, better picture than this bullshit. You know what I think it is, though? Honestly, I think it's just my lighting in my room. It's too dark, and the camera's just not made to work in really dark. Probably just need better lights in here. So anyway, what's up, people? How are you guys doing? Welcome to the death spiral. Right? Anyway. We'll let some people filter in. It's Friday. And I'm almost out of water. That is not good. But yes, it is indeed Friday. I have a 3-day weekend this weekend, which is good, which means we will be doing a chat tomorrow night. So, something for you nerds to look forward to. Those of you who like talking about nerdy, geeky shit that ultimately is not really important to our daily lives, but does give you a bit of a distraction from the bullshit that is the world today. You know what I mean? Because that's basically what we're dealing with today. And that kind of plays into what I wanted to talk about today. I could come on here and talk about guns. We could come on here and talk about Trump or mainstream media. And honestly, I'm sure anything we talk about mainstream media is always going to come into the picture, the conversation at some point. We could talk about a lot of things. Today, ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk a little bit about all the stuff going on in the world as it relates to women and trans rights. Not really trans rights. I don't really give a shit about trans rights. Honestly, like, I don't give a shit. You're a fucking adult. You want to cut your dick off? I don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? Like, ultimately, it doesn't really matter. Well, hello, Jollifer. That's when you say hello, motherfucker.
I just now came on. There's a lag.
All right. There you go. There it is. Anyway, as I was saying, I don't really give a shit about gay rights, or not gay rights. Fuck, trans rights. Sorry, two completely different things. I don't really give a shit about gay rights either. But I don't really give a shit about trans rights because you're a fucking adult. You want to do shit. You want to be fucking cutting shit off and adding fucking tit implants, or I don't know, you're a chick, you want to cut your tits off. Like, that's your right as an adult. I think it's fucking stupid and a clear sign of mental illness. But do what you want. What do I care? It doesn't affect me. Until it does. Until it does. And that's kind of what we're talking about here, is when it starts to affect me. Now I'm getting messages here as we're talking. And by me, I mean us. Because this trans shit has gotten to the point where it affects everybody all the time. It affects you at your job and what you can and can't do and can and can't say. It affects you on social media. It might affect your family in some way, shape, or form. If you have some, I don't know, fucking retard in your family or a family friend that thinks they're fucking trans or a they, them, they be, non-binary, gender fluid, whatever the fuck it is. You know, I used to have a real strong opinion that I didn't have an opinion on most of this shit. And you know why? Because I don't give a fuck. But now, with it being shoved in our faces all the fucking time, I start to give a fuck. And that's the problem. I could give a shit if you're an adult and you want to do some stupid shit, or what I think is stupid. Maybe you don't think it's stupid. That's fine. Whatever. Jolly, do you really give a shit if somebody wants to cut their dick off?
I mean, only to the extent that I feel sad for them, because they're obviously dealing with problems.
Yes,
and that
true.
Most cases, proper forms of therapy would probably go a lot further than actual body mutilation. But
I would absolutely agree with that, and I think you're 100% correct in that assessment of the situation. It is clear mental illness. It's what it is. Yeah. It's mental illness across the board. And like I said, we talked about this yesterday because of the shooting that happened. But I'm not knocking people with mental illness, dude. Everybody, like so many people have different forms of mental illness. That's not an issue. You're not a bad person because you're mentally ill, right? But doing stupid shit because you're mentally ill is still something we can judge the action, even if we're not judging you as a human being because you're dealing with something that other people aren't, and it's going to make you potentially act out in ways that the rest of us would know, oh, fucking, you shouldn't do that. Where it comes into play with the rest of humanity is when it's all foisted upon us to deal with this shit on a daily basis in every fucking walk of life, whether it's at work, at home, at school, whatever the fuck it is, all over the fucking TV and in movies and everything else. And then it starts to become everybody else's problem. And when you get people like me, and there's a lot of us out there, and we might have different political beliefs about certain issues and certain things, but you go back 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, large portions of the country were basically like me, which is, I don't really give a fuck. As long as whatever you're doing doesn't affect me, I don't care. Like, I just don't care. And if I see you getting treated poorly, I'll probably be like, hey, don't do that. Because it's just not worth, fucking with somebody over. And when you have managed to turn the vast majority of people like me who just didn't care, we didn't have enough of a stake in it to either be an advocate of it or be a hater of it, then you've made a pretty big fucking mistake when you've lost us. The people who spend most of our time trying not to give a shit about what other people do. You know what I mean? When you lose us, you fucked up. And then that's what has happened with the trans movement in this country. And here's the thing. I don't even know. I mean, there's so much to get into in this, and there's a whole other aspect of this conversation that I want to talk about as it relates to women. But I don't even know how much of the whole trans indoctrination of the United States, right? Let's call it what it is, basically, pushing it on everybody. I don't even know how much of it actually came from people who, before 10 years ago, actually were trans. Most of them just want to be left the fuck alone. You know what I mean? Yeah. Now you have a whole new, like, fucking culture of they, them, gender, binary, fluid, fucking transmission people that have grown up in the last 10 years that I think are completely different. They're growing up into these little shit-tard advocates that aren't really trans. They're just, most of them, looking for fucking attention. And they're very different because they're growing up very advocate fucking minded and shit like that. But you go back to pre 10 years ago, and most people who were actually fucking trans just want to be left the fuck alone. Like, just leave me the fuck alone. And I was like, cool, I'll leave you the fuck alone. I don't give a shit. You do you. If you're happy, you're an adult, fucking do what the fuck you want. I don't care. It doesn't affect me. So there is, I guess, two sides to this whole thing, right? There's the modern trans advocates, who most of them are not trans, and the ones that are really are only looking for attention. And you can tell because the amounts of these people, when you look at you take the modern trans advocate, the groups of trans advocates, and while there's a lot more of them than there used to be, the rates at which those people are actually going through like complete like fucking body restructure surgery, top and bottom, is much lower than the rates of the ones of the people that would have called themselves trans 10 years ago. And that's how I know they're a bunch of fucking posers and they're just looking for attention. But anyway, so yeah, there's a difference between those two groups, I think. But it comes back to what they're trying to push on everybody. And notice what I said. I don't give a fuck what you do as long as you're an adult. Adult being the key word here. Pushing the shit on kids. I think that was the biggest fucking mistake. If I were to narrow down any particular issue in the last, let's say, 6 years that the left has pushed that has been more detrimental to the left than any other one thing, it has been the trans kids movement. I can't think of anything else. Not fucking Joe Biden, not Ukraine, not their anti-gun shit, which I think we're all just kind of just really used to now because it's been going on for decades. I can't think of any other one single issue, not even their economic policies. I can't think of any other one single issue that has fucking made as many people like myself who just didn't give a shit all of a sudden start to care as that one issue did.
I mean, because here's the thing. Who, at least in concept, were Democrats supposed to be representing? The everyman, lower middle working class family.
Yep.
What drives a lot of those values is like working class nuclear families. And so what is like the, for better or for worse, what are you told kind of like as parents? Your life revolves around your kids. So now we're forcing your kids to go through a hardship or affecting your children in some way. Instantly you have made people turn on you. Because that's what they dedicate their whole life to.
Yeah, I mean, there's whole swaths of the voting population that just would, many wouldn't vote. Many would vote Democrat just because they've been told, hey, this is the blue collar fucking party for years and years and years. That didn't vote that way. Or just outright voted for Republicans this last election season. And I think that is the number one fucking issue. And I don't blame them. It's a horrible, horrible fucking thing to push on to kids. Oh, let's start fucking with your hormones and mutilating your body because, I don't know, your fucking mother, your libtard mother wants fucking attention. Because that's 99% of the time when you look at the statistics, it's usually the mother, the vast majority of the time. And the mother is, in almost every case, a liberal-minded individual. So let's be real clear. It's fucking libtarded women that are doing this to their fucking kids. And again, it's virtue signaling. It's a form of getting attention. It's very much Jolly, you're smarter than me at book shit. What's the name of that syndrome? Is it Munchausen syndrome?
Munchausen syndrome, where like that's the one where like you make yourself sick, or
you make your kid. What's the one where you like make your kid sick to get attention or whatever?
I forget. It's named after the like famous case, but it was a woman who was like intentionally like feeding her daughter chemicals to disable her.
Yeah,
so she'd be reliant on her.
I mean, whatever that's called, somebody in the chat probably knows, but it's just a modern version of that. I think is what a lot of this shit is. These kids that are transitioning before they've even hit double digits. Oh, Scott79 says Munchausen by proxy. So does Lone Dragon. There you go.
Yeah,
Munchausen by proxy. There you go.
Because Munchausen is yourself doing it.
Yourself, yeah. Thank you, book smart people out there in the chat. Yeah, I mean that's a big part of what it is. But even deeper than that, and even before all that, is the cultural push to do that. Because would there not be a cultural push about all this trans stuff, then these libtarded women wouldn't fucking feel the need to push their kids into doing that. They'd probably do something else fucking stupid, but it wouldn't be that. So it starts with the trans movement push. And I'll be honest, I don't know the origins of this. I mean, it's, I've heard people say it's just been an organic movement that's slowly been building, and there may be part of that that's true. There's also, I mean, a clear political push to divide people into subgroups and subcategories because, as we've talked about many times, a divided population is much easier to conquer or to keep enslaved to whatever the needs are of the elites that are running shit. And so I'm sure that plays a part in it too. And there's a lot of other things that you can tie this big push in the last decade for the trans movement towards. But the fact that it is being pushed on us, and when you look at the damage that it's doing. Now, I'm not going to sit here. I will be realistic here. I think the trans movement does not cause nearly as much damage to society as a lot of other things do. I think fucking simple things like economic policy cause much more damage to your average American than the trans movement does. But it is still obviously causing damage, especially as it relates to children. When you look at how it is being pushed and what is happening in schools and with kids and how they're being indoctrinated at a young age. Now, is that the only thing children are being indoctrinated to in public schools? No, of course not. Children have been being indoctrinated into all kinds of shit since the 1970s, but this is, of course, just the latest assault on that. So it is doing a lot of damage, and we may learn in 10 years, as these kids who all went through this grow up into adults, we may learn more about how much damage is actually being done by this big push onto children specifically. But right now, I don't have any evidence that this is like the biggest threat to American society, but it is still a threat. And it is something, like I said, that's much more, I think, impactful. And in a way, I mean, could you honestly sit here and not say that in a way, maybe it is kind of done some good that they did this? Because it shocked a lot of people into realizing how crazy a lot of people on the left are. So maybe there's even a little good that came from this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. Because it did. I mean, you saw a lot of people. I mean, I know people personally who that was the thing that got them to like fucking vote for Donald Trump. You know what I mean? So, I mean, maybe some good came of this. I don't know. I see more bad than good, but still. But I don't know, man. Like, and this goes into like the question of the chat, right? The question of the chat. The reason I called the chat what I did today, which is, you know, women versus trans, who's got bigger balls? Because the other side of this is what's now being referred to as fourth wave feminism. As if third wave feminism wasn't bad enough. Fourth wave feminism, which is also being pushed on all the little children's. All the little baby children's out there, especially the young girls. So Jolly, and let me ask you this. So you're of the age, you grew up and you came to maturity in the age of third wave feminism.
Yes.
Okay. I did not experience third wave feminism being a young man out dating and doing things like that. I did most of that shit in the 90s and early 2000s while you were just a wee little spud. Growing up as a young man during third wave feminism, with third wave feminism in like full force, and we'll get into explaining more about what third wave feminism is, but what has that been like, or is it not, is it difficult to explain because it's all you've ever known?
You know, honestly, well, I mean, you have to remember, I live in like the deep South, so
yeah, true, and it is a little
just
slower to take hold in like Alabama, and
Yeah.
same thing with me when I was in Texas, right? Like it's slower to take
Yeah.
hold.
I
there.
definitely saw some when I was in college. Now, you know, even if it's
Yeah.
a smaller scale. I would say the one of the funny things about like the third wave feminism and kind of that whole mindset is how like undecided and wishy-washy people are, as far as how they relate in relationships. Like there's this really interesting dichotomy of like, I want open or, you know, flexible relationships, but also anything is a red flag and I'll cut you off. I think that has a lot to do with it because it's the idea of like women being empowered themselves and wanting to be equals, if not greater than the men, but still also retaining a lot of the privileges they get. I think that's where third wave differs.
Well, and third wave feminism, I mean, that's a lot. That's one of the biggest differences between second and third wave feminism. Is it's not just about pushing the idea that women are equal to men, but that they are better than men in just about every way, but yet at the same time constantly pushing the idea that even though they are better than men, they are constantly and always from birth the victim of men,
held down,
and a society built by men.
It's kind of the question of like, if you're that capable and, you know, they can argue all the stuff, but legally in the large scale, there's nothing holding them back. Why have they not taken control? And kind of, I want to say, usurp society. Why are we not in a matriarchy?
Because there's no such thing as a matriarchy.
Like,
there never has been, and there never will be. Not in the history of every society on planet Earth has there ever been an actual matriarchy. There cannot be a matriarchy. The idea of matriarchy is a fun thought experiment that never, ever, ever can exist unless all men were to disappear off the face of the earth. And it's one very, very simple reason, and it's just force doctrine. That's all it is. Men have force doctrine on their side at all times. Even if you have a queen somewhere, right? You know, if there's been societies that they called matriarchs because a queen ruled. Well, who actually enforced what the queen wanted done? Was it a bunch of women? No, it was not. It was men.
Nope.
It was always men. It always will be men. Period. End of story. Now, that's not a sexist thing to say. That's just a fucking fact of life.
Men will always do the dirty work.
Men will always be the ones that enforce the laws. Therefore, by simple, basic statement of fact, we will always live in a patriarchy because they will always have force doctrine on their side. Even the idea of like women voting, you know, like, oh, we got our rights, we got the right to vote. Well, because men let it happen. That's why you did. Now, again, I'm not saying that in a sexist way. That's not to denigrate women in any way, shape, or form. Like, it's just a fact, you know, just like the fact that I can't go swim out in the middle of the ocean and fucking survive. I would fucking drown eventually, because it's just a fact that I'm not going to be able to keep up my stamina and hold my breath long enough to survive being dropped in the middle of the fucking ocean. It's just a fact of the physical world we fucking live in. The fact of the physical world we live in is that fucking women have rights because men gave them rights. You know what I mean? We necessarily live in a factual patriarchy that cannot be changed unless all men disappeared off the face of the earth. I mean, even 10% of men, probably less, could conquer the rest of the world if it was full of women. And that's just a fact that feminists don't like that, but it's true.
I do love the statistic that, I can't remember where I saw this, but that like lesbian married couples have equal, if not greater, divorce rates.
Higher.
And domestic violence rates than
highest rates of domestic violence, highest divorce rates. Straight couples are in the middle, and surprisingly enough, gay couples, two dudes, have the lowest divorce rates and lowest domestic dispute rates. What does that tell you?
Now, could they both be burning with just unsettled problems that they never voiced? Maybe, but at least they're not beating each other up.
Yeah, they're not beating each other up, and they're not divorcing each other. And that's kind of the point. Does say something. Again, this is going to come off as very woman hating, and I'm not a woman hater at all. Women are awesome and great, and we literally, and in my worldview, figuratively could not live without them. I would not want to live in a world without women. I would not want to live in a world without my wife and my daughters. And to me, they are the most precious thing in the world. And the thing that I like strive to take care of, which I think is my role as a man. But now women just want to basically do the push, the indoctrination that women should be able to do everything that a man can do, and in fact they can do all that, and they can do it better, is not serving. It's not serving society, and it's not serving themselves in any way. It's not benefiting them, and you know, again, I'm looking at this, and this is why I'm glad you're here today, Jolly, because I'm looking at this from the perspective of an old dude, right? I'm 48. I have 4 kids. You know what I mean? 3 daughters, 1 boy. I have my wife. Me and my wife will be, come December, we'll have been married for 20 years. And I'm happy. I love my family. I love my wife. I feel it is my duty and responsibility to take care of my wife and my daughters, and I want them to know I do that, not because I'm like, oh God, I have to, but because I feel like they're special and precious enough that I want to do that. And that men, I think in general, not every man, and certainly there are some societies, Islam, that teaches you should basically treat your women like shit. But I think for the most part, most men do not feel bad or regret taking care of their wives or their daughters or anything like that. Like it's in us, it's ingrained in us, and it's something we want to do. We feel like we're accomplishing something when we can take care of our wives or our girlfriends or our daughters or whoever it is. It's something we want to do. It's something we take pride in. But we've got an entire generation and a half now of women that have grown up, that are in their, teens, 20s, and early 30s, that don't want to be women, essentially. I mean, they basically want to be men, and they want to put off having families or having any serious relationships in favor of careers and one-night stands and all these other things. For what? I mean, that's detrimental to society. I mean, our birth rates are already down tremendously and have been consistently going down for the last 100 years. While other societies, which most people would say are not the societies we would want to emulate, their birth rates are very strong and very steady. But yet again, like we were talking about with the whole trans push, there is a clear push by the left, primarily, by, which is being echoed in the media and in movies and all these things, to push girls to grow up to be women who don't need a man and don't need to get married and need to focus on their career and don't need to worry about having kids. And that is not good for society, because imagine what would happen. And I'm not saying there are not aspects of this pushed onto society, because there are, but it's just not been the big push that we've seen with women. But imagine if society was pushing men in the same ways, right? But just because of men's traditional roles in society with different end goals. Oh, you don't have to work hard. Oh, no, don't worry about that. Oh, you don't have to learn a skill. Oh, you don't have to be a good provider. You don't have to treat a woman right. You don't need women. Fuck women. Use them up. And then when you're 40 years old and you're tired of the dating scene, then go find some woman to marry or whatever, right? Like, take all the traditional things that men have done throughout the history of the world, and not because there was some fucking, law that said we had to do these things, be a protector and a provider and all these things, but because it's just something that's innate in us. And there's some, fourth wave, men's movement pushing men to be the opposite of all of that. How would society cope with that? I don't think it would. It wouldn't last very fucking long.
Oh, I mean, you already see it. It's the Andrew Tates of the world. It's the bro, prioritize yourself,
the manosphere
self-satisfaction. Shit. Yeah,
it's that manosphere, fucking fit and fresh, fucking red pilled bullshit.
It's that, and look where every single one of them ends up: either unfulfilled, 55 and through 3 divorces, or they get arrested in Romania for being sex traffickers. Andrew Tate.
Yeah, the red. And don't get me wrong. The fucking. They call it the red pill movement, but red pill movement used to mean something much bigger than just men and women shit. It's kind of become a name that we use to describe that mentality. So I don't really like using that, because to me, red pill, the original meaning of that, which of course was pulled from the Matrix, meant that you opened your eyes to see all the bad shit that was going on in the world, and you've educated yourself. It wasn't just about fucking third wave feminism versus cuck men and shit like that, which is what it's become to mean. But anyway, the whole, what we'll call it, the manosphere shit that's been growing, which is your Andrew Tates and your, what's that, the Fresh and Fit or Fit and Fresh or whatever the fuck the name of that podcast is. And all this shit.
The Alpha Bros, all that.
Yeah, the just, fuck bitches and shit. And I'm not going to say, again, I'm not going to say that there aren't times I've listened to some of those dudes and they've made decent points. One point I hear repeated by that crowd over and over and over again is, hey, women want a man to act like a traditional man, but they don't want to be a traditional woman. That's fucked up. And that is a true statement because of third wave going into fourth wave feminism. That is something that does happen a lot. That does not mean how those dude bros act is appropriate. I don't think
that doesn't mean then stop being a traditional man. That's the
Right.
wrong message.
That doesn't mean
That's,
you
go find
fucking,
a woman who appreciates that they still exist.
because by the way, there are still women that do. And yes, there are fewer of them than there used to be, but there are still women that do. And because of everything that the left has been doing with feminism and trans stuff and all the other bullshit they've been pushing for the last 15 years, there is a growing movement of women moving more towards that, whether you want to call it right or conservative or traditional or, whatever you want. There's the trad wife movement and shit like that. There are women moving back to that. And I think men should be doing the same thing. But it begs the question, like, which is more dangerous to society? The trans movement shit or this third into fourth wave feminism shit? Like, what do you think, Jolly? Which one's more detrimental to society?
I would say the feminism movement, because I think both target how it affects society. Is that it breaks down the core, how our families, how our society is set up.
Yeah.
That, our given roles. Both of them attack that. Trans only does that in kind of a bleed through effect because, let's just be honest, there's not that many people who fall into that camp. You're not changing 10% of society.
Right.
Everybody, if you took all that population. But if, the country's kind of split 50-50, left versus right, if even 10% of that hardcore went, yeah, we're changing how we want to be set up as a society, you've just kind of kneecapped a bunch of your people.
Yeah. I agree though. I think the feminist push, first of all, it's been going on longer. It affects a much larger portion of society, and I think the end result is much more damage to the structure of society than the trans stuff. Both are bad. Both are bad, and I will, without doubt, exclaim my displeasure with both movements. However, I think you're right. I think the feminist move, if for no other reason than the fact that it affects a larger portion of society, right? Like, and not just theoretically, because it affects women and we're half women, but in like real world, like seeing its effects, it's affecting more of society, right? When you're talking about birth rates going down, when you're talking about women not wanting to get married or be in a serious relationship until they're at least in their 30s, which drastically obviously affects birth rates, because the older women are when they have kids, the less likely they are, or when they try to have kids, the less likely they are to actually have kids, and certainly less likely to have healthy children, which is another issue.
That also really skews the whole generational lineup when you start looking at like Social Security, Medicare, things like that. Because like my parents, they're in their between late 40s, early 50s, or mid 50s. I still have, if the average life expectancy is somewhere around 75. I've got another 15, 20 years before you have to start making those kind of decisions, thinking about it. There are people, I know, who were my age or younger. Like I had a coworker who was like 21, 22. Her dad was like 68. How do you, if they didn't handle their affairs, how do you take care of that? In this economy, you're barely able to live on your own.
Yeah.
At a young age with salaries the way they are and the cost of living.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. The idea, I think, of quote unquote traditional values gets a really bad rap because we've been told for so long that if you believe in traditional values, that means, you know, you're like some fucking ancient wannabe fucking woman hating, you still must be racist and, you know, all kinds of shit, right? Like you use the word traditional and you instantly get lumped in with name every bad thing that you can say about the past. And when it comes right down to it, the idea of having quote unquote traditional values is really just as simple as saying, okay, what are the things that have historically worked in society, right? And what are the things that we still have clear evidence today work to benefit a society? Whatever that may be, right? In this case, what we're talking about is you know, traditional roles for men and women, right? And again, that's not to say like you know, it's not to sit there and say, oh well, women shouldn't be able to work. Well, no, of course not. But there are still traditional roles. You know what I mean? And I'm not talking about fucking you know, oh you've got to make sure you do the fucking do your husband's laundry every fucking day. But like, you know, being a caregiver to children, wanting to actually have children at an age that fucking makes some goddamn sense for not just society as a whole, but just for you in your fucking life, and not wanting to fucking still be a parent dealing with a high school kid in your fucking 60s, you know, might be a good idea to want to have kids, you know, in your mid 20s to mid 30s at the very latest, and be working on that goal. And right now we're dealing with a fucking situation where women are told they don't, not only should they push that goal off for as long as they can to work on their career and everything else, but that they don't even really need that goal. You know what I mean? They don't need that shouldn't even really be a goal. I mean, and they'll say, well, you know, if you really want to, that's fine. But if you do, you're just playing into stereotypical, you know, traditional roles by men.
Yeah, that's the thing. It should be the inverse, where you kind of default. If you really feel like you don't want to have kids, that's fine. You know, you want to live a more liberal-minded life like that, that's okay.
Yeah.
But like the default is you want to get married, have kids, raise a family. And I think that was the whole idea of like second wave, was like women should be free to do everything a man does. They may just not necessarily do it. They just wanted the option.
Yeah. Well, now it's basically like, oh, if you don't go out and get a career and do all these things, and if you put, you know, the idea of getting married and having a family first, there's something wrong with you. Like, oh, if you do that, you're being held back. You know, you're being oppressed. You're being a victim if you're doing that. I mean, that's like dudes. And it really is. It's the same level of stupidity as if a guy said, oh, well, if I get married and I'm forced to take care of my wife and my kids, I'm being oppressed. What? No, you're not. Suck it up, buttercup. Shut the fuck up. Like, that's what we would tell a dude if he acted like that. We'd be like, fuck you, pussy. The fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah, you're not a man. Deal with it.
Yeah. I don't know, man. And I don't know. I tried watching a couple of these third wave, fourth wave feminist fucking podcasts and interviews. And it's just, they're so fucking retarded. I'm sorry. They're just, they come off as mentally retarded. Like really. Like they can't explain why they have any of the views they fucking have. They can't answer any questions as to what's wrong with traditional roles and values and things like that. They can just keep coming up with, well, you if you don't like it, that just means you hate women and want to take women's rights. No, nobody hates women. Dude, The world would not exist without women. Nobody's fucking saying that. Yeah, I'm sure there's some fucking women-hating dudes out there, but they're few and far between. Most dudes don't hate women. Most dudes see women for what they are, which is basically our other half. As it used to be called, our better half. You know what I mean?
I hate how the term nowadays is partner, not your
Is what?
spouse or your girlfriend or boyfriend.
You broke out right when you said it. The term is what?
Oh, okay. Partner.
Oh, partner. Yeah, fuck them. I mean, I
hate
get
that
it.
because that frames this as a business transaction. And
Yeah.
what do you do when business falls through? You leave.
Mhm.
Or you renegotiate the deal. That's not how a lifelong commitment should be set up.
No. And I get the like the topical idea of that, like, oh, this is your life partner or whatever, but you're right. Yeah.
And unrelated news, I'm gonna have to fight an AT&T tech because they are an hour and 45 minutes late from setting up my internet.
Just turn on the camera when they get there and you start whooping his ass. Because we want to see that.
What's really depressing is like
I
the
bet
rep.
you Jolly gets his ass kicked.
What's really depressing is like the rep came by, like just the not the actual technician, but kind of like the in-home service, or like customer service person that'll like come by.
Yeah.
They came by and they're like, oh, the rep should be, or the tech should be coming. No,
Yeah, should be. Where the fuck are they?
they're supposed to be in here between 2 and 4 Central. It is now 5:47.
You gotta love that. It's good times, man. It's good times.
How did going to the courthouse take less time and was more efficient than this?
I have too. I've been to jury duty. That's taken less time than waiting for the Spectrum fucking tech to show up. It's true. But anyway, so I mean, just real quick to wrap everything up. I think yes. I mean, if you're gonna ask the question, the trans shit, the feminist, the third, fourth wave feminist shit, which one is doing more damage to society? They're both bad. They're both bad. But definitely the feminism shit is, in my opinion, definitely much more detrimental to society. And I don't know how you change it. I mean, it's going to be up to like the jollies of the world to change it. I'm too old for this shit. You know what I mean? I'm already married. I already got kids. I mean, I can do my part in how I raise my children, which I am, but like, I can only do so much. And I think
So-
but
No pressure.
there is hope. There is hope because there are people out there, whether it's you, Jolly, or other people who are younger, who are being raised, or who are already old enough and learning this shit that are, I mean, there's a reason why for the first time, excuse me, in what, 35 years, I think, no, more than that, almost 40 years, first time in like almost 40 years that a Republican won the popular vote.
Yeah.
So
Now, it did take one of the most lame duck presidents to ever exist.
It did,
before him,
it did.
But
but a lot of
whatever
that
gets us across the
also,
line.
yeah, but a lot of that also was just because the left was pushing so much radical, insane, retarded shit so much that people were just like, I can't do it. I can't vote Democrat.
Oh, they doubled down completely, and that's their problem. They did not try to
Now they're
move towards the
doubling
middle.
down.
And they're still doubling down after they lost, which
It's
Exactly.
not a double down anymore,
is
Matt.
fucking amazing.
They're tripling down.
Mm-hmm. It's fucking insane.
You know, it was like to shout out this channel like he needs my help because he has 87 other channels. But there's a guy, I usually found him through a channel called Warfronts, and they cover like conflict news.
Mm-hmm.
But he also the same host does like 8 other YouTube channels. And he has one called Political Fronts. Mm-hmm. And he like, you can tell he has a bias, but like he does not throw that in your face. So I enjoy watching them. And they were talking, I think they were talking about Japan's birth rate is just plummeting. And they're facing kind of some of the same problems. Yeah.
Japan's birth rate, well, most of the Asian countries' birth rates right now are plummeting. South Korea, Japan, and China, which are the 3 biggest Asian economies.
And all 3 of them, if you notice, have pushed over the last 20, 30 years women being in the workforce just as much as men. Prioritizing careers over the family.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And it's yeah. I mean, and even in country, I mean, and what's funny about it is, and those countries are much, much less feminist than we are.
No, like Japan is kind of, there's a reason there's separate women and men's subways.
Yeah.
You mean public baths? I mean, they do segregate genders on the trains to each their own cars, but
yeah, they do because of like the sexual harassment. Japan is not very pro-feminist. They just like the workforce.
Nope.
Yeah, it's when you see it in those countries, even, that's pretty fucking crazy, man. That's pretty fucking crazy. So, but anyway, I'm sorry, chat. I know we were just kind of talking this whole time and didn't really focus too much on your comments. I apologize for that greatly.
Well, most of them were women commenting, and we don't listen.
We don't listen to women. So
I do if they're goth girls.
No. Even those women, they probably have nothing good to say.
It's so sad that we drove the goth girl to extinction. We did it. We destroyed their habitat.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a goth comeback. I have noticed that, at least in like pop culture and shit, there seems to be a little bit of a goth comeback, for whatever that's worth. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's not prevalent like it was for me growing up in the 90s.
Oh yeah, like the late 90s, early 2000s was like peak.
Oh yeah, that was. Yeah.
I've been seeing a lot more of them where I live. Okay.
Wow. They're still out there, and there is a comeback, because it was goth, which merged into kind of like emo, and then became emo for a while, and then it kind of died off, and now goth is making a bit of a comeback. It's still kind of goth mixed with emo, but there's still some goth in there. So, it is what it is, I guess. But anyway. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I know we haven't quite hit an hour yet, but I'm going to have to shut this one down. I do have my other chat coming up here in about 5 minutes, so I've got to get to that one. But we will be doing a chat tomorrow night. Hope you guys can come back for that, all you little tasty nerds out there. Yeah, hope you guys have a great fucking weekend. I know I will, because I don't have to work, which always makes for a great fucking weekend. So we will see you guys next time. As always, deuces, yo. Shall not pee in fridge. And we will see you guys next time. Take it easy, guys.